Hello and welcome back to Paup-up video from your friends at Superliminal Films. This is Max and I am coming at you with a brand new episode. This time, we're going to do it a little bit differently. We're going to test a deck that we haven't really played before. We are trying out a new archetype, and this is kind of the formula that we follow when we are testing out new decks. This deck is going to be a blue-black control deck that is going to leverage the poison mechanic or poison counters and proliferate mechanic that we have seen in the most recent of the Phyrexia sets that have been coming out. This one being Phyrexia All Will Be One. And we are also using some proliferate cards back from War of the Spark to help tie the room together in this control deck that is going to try to kill the opponent with relative straightforward strategy of casting instants and sorceries. We're going to be leveraging some removal, leveraging some cool counter magic. So hopefully the relatively dangerous 2-drop curve doesn't come back to bite us. So we're going to play it against a myriad of different decks that are popular in the format and see how it fares. A great way to start testing when you think you're onto something. You've played the deck and beaten Sparky. See the other video on YouTube for how to start your own archetypes and build your own decks in this format. But step 2 is playing against some of the format staples, and that is exactly what we're going to do on this episode. So thanks for watching and stick around. So here we are with the deck tech for this poison control deck. We have 4 opt. Granted, it is an assemblage of 2 different arts of opt, 2 innocent blood, 4 Whispers of the Dross. Now, this is the first time we're getting into this proliferate. This card did not strike me as very good. I thought it was kind of a crummy version of the one that lets you make a Saproling token, Fungal Infection, but it's actually surprised me how relevant this card is in testing because it costs a single mana, and it's so important. Looking at the 2-drops, you can kind of see why. The whole deck comes together on 2. Bring the Ending, Contentious Plan, definitely the worst card on 2. Experimental Augury, and Prologue to Pheresis? Pheresis? I don't know. But Pheresis and Augury are both instants. Contentious Plan is a sorcery, so it makes it the worst of the lot by a decent amount. Anoint with Affliction, obviously we want a removal spell that's cheap for those kind of matches, and this one also lets us go ahead and ramp up a little bit. If we have the Corrupted, we can get to anything, which is really nice. The card that kind of ties the room together is Splendid Agony. This card kind of replaces Suffocating Fumes in the more traditional style control deck because we can distribute the counters so readily that I think that we can play this over having to play the Fumes, which is kind of an old standby at this point in the format. And Infectious Inquiry, this is kind of our card power. It does lose us some life, and sometimes that is a bit of a problem in this deck, I have noticed. But it's not heinous, and obviously it gives a poison counter, which is super important. And then finally, our big card draw spell is Vivisurgeon's Insight, which draws 3 cards and then proliferates. For our mana, 10 Island, 4 Mystic Sanctuary. This is an absolute staple of the format at this point. Usually not played in 4, but in this deck we need to get to our Proliferate and our Poison cards very quickly and very readily. So having this Mystic Sanctuary gives us essentially 4 more copies of a Proliferate or Poison giving card, which is super duper important here. And the reason we're up a little heavier on the Island count and a little lower on tap lands is because, man, tap lands hurt in this deck so much more than the traditional Dimir control style deck. I've worked really hard on my Dimir deck to make sure that the curve has something we can do readily every turn along with tap lands, where this deck kind of doesn't have that luxury because it has to use cards with give poison counter or proliferate. So we really need that kind of thing early. Same reason we're playing a lot of ops is because early on we need to find that card that gives that initial poison counter. We're not playing toxic creatures, we're just giving a poison counter by way of a sorcery or instant in this deck. So then we have Swamp, pretty straightforward. Contaminated Aquifer is our island swamp, so even more islands here, and Obscura Storefront. It gains us a life and shuffles. The reason it's still in here, because it's a little clunky, the reason it's in here is because of Experimental Augury. So this puts cards on the bottom, and sometimes that is like a painful choice to have to make. So having a reshuffle effect is actually super important. Same with Opt. It may be better to switch out Opt for Consider, possibly. for Mystic Sanctuary purposes, but for now we're testing Opt, so we'll see. I think it's something worth revisiting here at the end of the video, so we'll see how it goes. Welcome back. We are in our first test game with this Poison Control deck, and it looks like we're on the play. Looks like we have a pretty acceptable hand here, which is very exciting. The key to these keeps is generally this particular effect right here. The proliferate, not as important as the initial poison counter. There are games I've played in testing where I struggle if I don't get the initial rollout of the poison counter card. So that can definitely be a game changer for us. The question now becomes the awkwardness of the tap land. Do we just toss it out here? I think with a hand that's this level of pretty keepable, I think the answer is likely yes here. So I think we just go ahead and lead right off with the storefront. And we're playing a little bit possibly risky by not holding up black for Whisper of the Dross, but I think we're in okay shape. So at this point, we could be playing against an aggressive deck. We could be playing against a more controlling style deck. One of the Boros value decks. We could be playing against just a balls to the wall aggro style deck leveraging the Epicure's blood and initial damage against us. A lot of possibilities here from the opponent. I think we probably just go ahead and keep this relatively simple and just island pass. It gives us the most flexibility with this hand going forward. Synthesizer on single red, so it looks like this leads me to believe that the hand could be just full of flexible value options potentially, or trying to hit a land drop. One of the two. I would like to believe opponent would keep a non-one lander, but you never know. Okay, trying to get some value out of Secluded Step down the line makes total sense. We're going to get bonked for one. And at the end of turn, I do believe we're just going to go ahead and fire off this prologue. Okay, that was a decent enough draw here. And you can kind of see what I mean on the 2-drop front, right? Like, there's a lot going on here in terms of 2s. Do we want to go here, or do we want to hold up some assemblage of these cards? I think that is probably a little bit better. It seems like we're going to have time for this. So I think I'm comfortable enough passing here. I don't think we end up donking on this turn almost no matter what. Scrap Work Mutt. With Secluded Step, it's likely not an aggro deck, but it's possible that it's an aggro deck with just a clunky start. Mutt, huh? Yeah, I guess that's fine. Trigger's a little rough, but I think we'll be able to weather the storm a little bit here. We need some good draws, there's no doubt. Pitching a Frostbite leads me to believe it's more of a controlling style deck. See the Snowlands there working in tandem with the Frostbite. Lead off with Opt to see what we can draw here. Opponent has a response? Nope. Okay. I think we want this. Next turn. I think we probably fire this one off here. I think we probably want this, sadly. Okay, not our greatest draw step ever. Okay. Alright, so going a little shields down potentially against opponent, but I think that's kind of fine here. probably just want to save damage here if possible. They get to unearth the mutt, but that's kind of fine. Keeping 2 life up when we're essentially kind of trying to race as best we can is important. It's not obviously the 4th poison counter not as important as that 3rd for corrupted purposes, but opponent just getting to enjoy full Skyfisher value here, getting to follow up with another Skyfisher. Do they pick up the Epicure or the Blood token? I think probably Epicure, right? Like, it's going to deal its damage on the way back down and create another Blood token down the line, so that seems like a slam dunk for them. Goodness gracious. Where do we go from here? We definitely want to hold this. I think we're just going to go ahead and lead here. It's a pretty, I think, straightforward play in this regard. Probably do this now. We'll lose out on a little bit of value, but getting to draw a card is pretty powerful here. Giving up on potentially their red cards here. If they got Mountain Synthesizer, that's not terrible, though. Yeah, not super duper concerned yet. Looks like they're in for 2 here. A lot of white mana, no ability to unearth. Might Blood token, possibly, if they're looking to make a land drop. It'd be pretty telling here. They're going to get a lot of information from this particular turn. I think for us, it's a fairly straightforward process. Okay, losing a little bit of value on the cycling lands, but nothing heinous. I think we just do this here. This is a little much for us to overcome. These are some of the harder cards for us to deal with in the core Skyfishers. Okay. A lot of good questions now. It's tough. It's a toughie. I don't think we want to fire this off here. I think we just do this. I think the answer is probably this card. Just plop that on top for us. Hold the fort. We're doing a good job of kind of juggling the opponent's permanents to keep them low, which I think is good. That's fine. Oof, that is not so much fine. Tough questions now. Oh, yeah. I think we let this one resolve, sadly. But their life total's irrelevant, right? It's the cards that are the problem. Life total, they could be at 1,000. It doesn't matter. We're trying to poison them out. Okay. Spirited Doggo it is. And we get to do a little bit of showcasing of that one. I think we do this now before, or is it just better to have this? We'll have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana to, yeah, no, it's better to just put it on top, I think. It kind of forces our hand, but I think that's fine. This card just seems really hard for the opponent to overcome, so. Yeah, I don't think we're losing out on a ton on that one. We do need to find a little bit of action here if possible. The thing is, we're spinning our wheels slightly, right? We're prioritizing, making sure we're handling we're prioritizing the control over the poison in this regard. See what they discard here. Frostbite. Yeah, Frostbite not very good against us. This is a creatureless version of the deck, as you saw during the deck tech. So the nice thing is we get to kind of dead a lot of removal spells. And in Pauper, most decks tend to play around probably average 8 copies of these cards, so it's pretty good. Do we just fire this off here, or just take the hit from the mutt? I think we just take the hit from the mutt. I think we can live with that. There's the Epicure. So that's 1 more damage, down to 6. Dawnbringer Cleric. So you can... The main thing about the Dawnbringer is they're going to exile a card from our graveyard. Is there anything in the graveyard right now we cannot live without? I think the answer is no, so I think it's fine to let that resolve here. This just feels like the opponent trying to overwhelm us with creatures, which is completely a logical thing to be doing. Removing Whisper of the Dross makes a lot of sense. It's a very good card against them. I think this is the correct set of creatures to go after. I will take that. Okay. In the face of that, do we want to play this out here? I think the answer is probably not. I think we just do this here. So we take 1 damage here on this particular step. The main thing we got to do, we have to fade are this double synthesizer opponent has, right? Like double synthesizer is tokens. That's pretty rough for us. They're uncounterable creatures. That puts the onus on us to either kill them very quickly. We have 3 poison left to give. Or we have to deal with the board. One of the two. And it looks like opponents electing to kind of pressure us in the most in the least interactive for us way possible. So next turn they'll present. So they're going to attack with Dawnbringer here and then attack for lethal on the following turn. So I think our path is relatively clear from this point. We have to win the game or wrap the board up on this turn. It's kind of no in between here. Okay, so we're going to see if we can opt here. Okay, I guess I accept that. And we opt here. We definitely don't want that. That I would accept. Okay, alright. So let's start here because this is kind of the big scary moment here. Okay. Looks like we're going to squeak one out here. And we do. Nice. Alright, here we go with another game with this poison control deck. Hand looks fine. It's really a question of, oddly, we don't have a 2-drop right now, which is extraordinarily unusual for this deck. So I think we can get away with maybe playing a little bit differently than we have had to be. So that's kind of nice to see. You love to see it. Opponent leads on Basic Forest. Interesting. I think we can go ahead and do this here. We have plans down the line. We're not interested in this quite yet. We'll see what's up. Elvish Visionary. So this could be Mask. This could be Elves. This could be something else entirely, just like a mono green style Stompy deck. Yeah, who knows? I think we just go here. We're not under an immense amount of pressure, and this early gives us cards So it gives us options and puts down that oh so important first poison counter. Now the deck can really start to go off, I think, from this point. Getting hit for 1 down to 17. Not a big deal yet. I think this is the turn where we're going to find out. It's not a ton of information yet. Still not a ton of information. Could be mono green like ramp. Could be just elves. Hard to say thus far. I mean, leaning towards elves, obviously, right? The board is 3 elves. However, this could just be an awkward draw with a mono green beat deck. Like, it wouldn't surprise me next turn if we saw, like, land, Visionary, Sentinel, and then, like, Silverback Shaman or something. Like, there's completely reasonable other decks. But it looks like elves, right? Like, there's no denying that one. We want to prioritize getting down that 3rd island here in case of Mystic Sanctuary stuffs. I think we just chill for now. We have 7 cards in hand, so there's no reason to rush anything. Plenty of instants to interact with. And that's one of the strengths of this control style deck, is so much of the deck fires at instant speed. Definitely a little different than even the Dimir deck that we've seen in Pauper already, the more controlling style. 4 mana. If it's elves, listen, a lot of Huntmaster is important. They're obviously not going to do Silverback Shaman now. So I want to see what the play here is. Just a Sylvan Ranger. Okay. So Sylvan Ranger is important to the elves because it lets them get off-color cards. And at this point, it's got to be elves, right? Like, Sylvan Ranger is not a ramper because it puts a card in your hand. It is a mana fixer. So likely we're playing against elves. And they're either going to get blue for their Distant Melody, or they're going to get white for their Fortify if they already have the blue. Usually blue is the most important next step. So we have a Masked Vandal here as well. Our turn. What do we do is the question. I think we have to start to unload a little bit. So I think do we just kind of like deal with these, wrap these up that are like... We definitely want one here. Guess we'll put one here. And I think we just go ahead and do this. It takes care of some of the pressure opponents putting down. Not all of it, not even like close to all of it. I think we want to go this direction, possibly this direction. Because right now, well, if we can, so there's a couple ways we can do this, right? If we control the board enough, we can put a stopper to Distant Melody just by keeping a low number of elves on the battlefield. So I think this is probably the right line. We haven't made a land drop yet, and I think this is going to inform how we proceed in that regard. Okay, I think all this is pretty good. We just go this direction, probably. Yep. Give an additional poison counter. And I think we'll just go ahead and play out Island and pass the turn here. A little rough for us, but not heinous. This might have been the better play here, but we'll see. There's the Sentinel. That resolves. I think we just go ahead and deal with that here. That's too many elves. Too many elves on one card. Alright. I think we want to go here. Alright. Go here. I think we want to run this here. A little punished, but not the worst. Yeah, we'll pass the turn. Mill manual tap action. Elvish Visionary. Granted, remember, they still have the Jaspira Sentinel, so they still have access to blue mana here if they want to draw 4 cards off their Distant Melody. And they still could do a 1-drop elf first, even. So, could be up to 5 cards off the Melody, which is rough. Just a Land of War Visionary, that's okay. Not great, don't get me wrong, but okay, I can live with that. Now they're starting to get into dangerous to draw card territory. Also dangerous for our life total. I don't want to undersell that. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're one away from being lethaled out here on this next turn. Definitely do not want that, but thank you. I said I definitely do not want that. I certainly don't want that. Yo. Let's start with a card. Oh my. Okay. That was bad. That's what we call bad draws in the business. No way to do much here. We just pass. Did we miss out on anything? I don't think we missed out on anything here. I mean, does this matter? I guess kind of. Like if we were to Splendid Agony, we're still at 1 no matter what we do. So Splendid Agony on its own doesn't do it. It's tough. Let's see what they do here. Oh, add to their hand. Makes sense. I'm going to get the entire graveyard to choose an elf card. Roots of Wisdom, very strong card in this deck. Not normally a good card. Historically wasn't very good, but man, in this deck, it can be really overpowering. The opponent's going to put a very premium card into their hand, so even if we can deal with the board, the game is far from solved here. Oh my goodness, that is a lot of land. That was Island, we bottomed, then drew Island, then Swamp, and then Aquifer. So four of our draw steps here, unfortunately. So we die. Close, though. Just drew 2 cards that proliferate, one of which would have got us 2 more cards. So a close one, but not quick enough. And we're back with another one. Welcome on in. Yeah, it's a toughie. Opponent's on the play, and I think that this combination here is good enough. I think we'll get here in time. With the amount of selection we have, I think we're going to get there. So I'm going to keep this. It's a little bit on the risky side, but I don't think tremendously so. Basic Swamp from the opponent. There's a lot of things that could represent. Follow-up Basic Swamp gives us a little bit more information. I definitely don't want that. Unequivocally don't want that. Okay. Yeah, I think there's plenty for us to do here that we don't need to worry about it right this moment. We'll let the game play out and see what decisions we have to make. Third Basic Swamp. Totally Invasions. We're playing against control. Tempted to just do this and then let them do what they want. I think that's the answer. Gives them the opportunity to take anything they want here. I don't think we have anything particularly powerful against them at the moment, so I'm not really worried about anything getting discarded. Probably like Augury being the worst thing. None of the black cards obviously super appealing with no black source in our hand. And if this is mono black control, they're not playing a lot of creatures, so they really don't care about that creature removal. But I don't know. It's either bring the ending, which means they probably have a powerful follow-up on the next turn, which could be like their ill-gotten inheritance or something. So we're in a bit of a pickle here. I think we're just going to draw a card because I'd rather try to get a black source down this turn. Ew, not great. But we'll try to deal. Could be IGI, could be... I don't really care about the creature that's a half discard 2 cards. That doesn't matter to me. Yeah, I think IGI is the worst possible offense they could commit here. Otherwise, I don't think I mind anything too badly. That's kind of rough. After IGI, that's probably the next worst thing they could have done. Okay. Oh, I should have waited on that. That's on me. Yeah, no reason to do anything at the moment. I should have done that at sorcery speed, but I got a little ahead of myself. Get those mechanical plays in your head when you're playing. But I think I'm hoping we can sort out our problem here between these two. We'll see. We shall see. Reaper of Night. That's the card I was talking about. Have both of my Splendid Agonies. You may have them. They do get in for another point of damage here. Makes it 18 all. And we're going to get the opportunity to take a look-see at some stuff. I think we have to take this here, which is, like, real painful. We do not want to proliferate their zombie army token. That much I am sure of. I'll take this. It's not the greatest, but it's fine. It's cheap. It lets me do my thing. We'd rather do this here. Okay. Not a terrible draw, but not a fantastic draw either. But going up in cards against a deck that's playing a lot of mainboard discard is pretty good for us. Like, I now feel like I'm padded out decently against discard. So, Dusky Z. Love Dusky Z. Dusky Z. I love Dusky Z. Passing it up. Alright, they have a decent amount of little things on the board. Yeah, this is a slightly rough one here. Put this on top. And I think we pass the turn here. Popping a food. Taking some time to eat some oh so swirly bananas. Plantains, I guess. There's the Reaper. That resolves. Probably just nuke the token here. Save ourselves a point of damage. We already have the Reaper covered, so I'm not super worried about that one. It's more the IGIs and such I'm worried about, but at this point I have the first one covered, so I'm in okay shape here. 6 poison, 13 life for us. Going down to 11 this turn. Oof. Opponent asking the good questions. Yeah, I think that's fine, sadly. I don't think I can fight over that here. I have to fight over the more valuable spells. Like, I really have to pick my battles when it comes to countering a spell. That's a tough one, too. It's a clock, right? I guess so. It's a rough one, no doubt. Not something I'm like, not what I'd elect to counter, but the clock is real, and I need to preserve my life total in case I draw more, draw 2, get a poison counters. I think we're going to do this here because I just want to find action right now, and I don't want to leave myself cold to choosing a sorcery. Like this one. Okay, puts us up to 8 against opponent. Unfortunately, 1 available mana means they get to kind of have their way with us this turn, but they're at 8 poison, 2 poison counters, and they lose. So I don't think they're going to have a card to win them the game on this turn. There's the IGI. Even if they cast another IGI, I think we're in good shape here. They're just so close to dead. I think we managed to wrestle the game away from them. The Rager wouldn't have made too much of a difference, but I still think it was correct to counter there because we wouldn't be countering this turn anyway, so I think that's fine. Go ahead and do this. follow up with this. That'll do it. Welcome back for another game here as we test this poison control deck. Opponent is on the play, it appears, and this hand is okay. Neither of these are the card we want for one in a blue. I mean, neither is this. But I think it's acceptable. This is kind of the hands that are borderline that I think are very valuable playtest hands. Opponent leads on Tranquil Thicket. Okay. What are we playing against? Tranquil Thicket into Plains? Oh, Spirited Companion? Okay, green-white Spirited Companion? It seems like it's going to be Mask. I can't think of another deck that it would be. In that case, I think we want this here. We just pass, hold up this, see where things go from here. Seems unlikely they'll start suiting up the Companion. That's usually a sign of weakness. It's usually trying to play that first hexproof creature. That's the tension in the early part of this game. If they're on hexproof. Heliod's Pilgrim? Yeah, it seems like they're on hexproof to me. Sure. So this is likely going to find Ancestral Mask. If they already have Ancestral Mask, it may find... sometimes it can even grab a creature because there are enchantment creatures in the deck. Like we see the Spirited Companion. There's also the Flyer sometimes that gets played that makes things cheaper. So there's a lot of flexibility in this deck. It could just simply be a trample or flying type effect if they need the evasion after the thing's down. So the tension with the Mask deck is making sure you find A, the hexproof creature, and then B, the right enchantment for it. So looks like they're taking the evasive card, which leads me to believe they already have Mask in hand, which is bad news for us right out of the gate. So let's try this. I hate throwing it away this early, but we kind of know the fight we need to... We know what we're fighting over, and we need to be prepared for it. So I think this is going to be a grindier one for us. I just hope that we don't run out of resources too quickly is going to be the key here. That was an extremely rough bottom of our library in any order, by the way. I know I was trying to explain a lot at once, but that was about the worst it could get for us. So we still get WAP for 2. Okay, what do we do here? Probably lead on this. Do we? No, I can't really do that yet this turn either. I guess I just continue to make noises and we pass is probably the best play. I don't see a better way around things than this. Alright, so that worked out alright for us thus far. Opponent hasn't made another land drop either. So that's pretty nice. I think we do this. No, we don't. That's a lie. We do this. Okay. Not the greatest draw I've ever had in my lifetime. I think we do this to slow the clock down. Do we? Or do we just do... I think we just do this. Let's get cards. When in doubt, draw cards. Okay, yeah. That makes the other option a little bit worse. Alright, they're up to 4 mana, so now the Jade Guardians can start. We're tapped out, so the gate is clear. They could even equip up one of their creatures. If they need to, it's dicey. They know what we're up to. They kind of know the game plan, I'm sure. So, Transcendent Envoy, that was the card I was talking about that you can find off Heliod's Pilgrim. Makes Auras cheaper. It's a good card in this deck. They can get pretty nasty. Like, we know they're holding a Cetessan Training that is now a single green, so they can pay a single green, draw a card if they really want to. They can put it on the Heliod's Pilgrim and punch us in the face for 2, 3 damage with the doggo. Try to draw into something hexproof that's better long term. They know we're down 2 counter spells, so it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough road for us to hoe, and that's exactly what they're going to do is cycle that Cetessan Training. Looks like they don't have the flying enchantment. That would have been really rough if they went cycle on us. That would have been a lot closer to drawing relevant cards, which I don't want them to be. The question is, what do we do here? I think it's this. I think we go this direction. Yeah, that seems like a fine enough auto tap. Okay, this helps. We're getting somewhere-ish. Nowhere great. It's hard to get anywhere great against a mass deck, though. Till you win the game. It always just feels like a sweat. Even if they have like a medium game, like after the fact, if you've played against people in person or had a discussion over Discord or something after a game like this, and you're sweating and you're like, oh my god, I barely scraped it out. And like, yeah, it was a really bad hand. It just didn't come together at all. And you're like, man, I feel like I barely won that game. So it just is. It's the boogeyman of the format for a reason, right? Like it definitely is a scary deck to play against. Urban Utopia. Yeah, that resolves. Okay. 2 green sources, 2 white sources. The very cheap Urban Utopias. Anytime they can cycle and draw a card, it's really good for them. Okay. They just raw dogging it, huh? See if we can kind of get them got here. Alright, lucky there. Alright, so we just follow up with this. It was a very advantageous draw for us as well. So getting a little lucky. Transcendent Envoy resolves. We're just kind of looking to do this, I think, is our main focus. Commune with Spirit's very powerful here. Cetessan Training. I think they're looking to cycle it on the Envoy. Alright, so let's go ahead and do this as we said. I think that's the right move to make for us. Very easy card here. Proliferate it up. Okay. I don't think we're to the point where we need to do the Sanctuary yet. Maybe we hold that just... I don't want to get too ahead of myself. So then maybe we do Sanctuary. Oh no, I just dropped an island. I'm like, this card's so powerful, it's like a spell that I don't even think of it like a land sometimes in my head. I should have probably Sanctuaried back the Vivisurgeon's Insight, maybe? Could be that's entirely incorrect too, so that may be a blessing in disguise here, we'll see. Commune with Spirits resolves. Ancestral Mask. So it's 7 poison. We're in good shape. We're at 11 life. Then we're elves. Sure. Squire's Devotion. +1/+1 in the lifelink. Don't so much care about the lifelink. 2 mana left available. Towns of Wildwood +1/+1 and Trample. Okay. I think we'll just preserve our life total here. Alright, now I do think we want that Insight, because we do want to find enough cards to win the game here. And I think we're good to chill. Have the ability to get back the Talons of Wildwood, have the ability to mask. They know we put the Insight back on top, so highly incentivized to try to close out the game. Obviously, going to be hard to do it this turn with all of our open mana, but at least try to close out the game on the next turn here. Okay. Using the Talons of Wildwood makes sense. Try to set up for a win next turn. Yeah, I don't see a need to do anything here. I think we just chill. Okay. And then we cast this and we got him. There we go. And welcome on in. We are doing testing with the Poison Control deck. This is a tough one. We have stuff. I like stuff. I'm a fan. The mana's awkward, but I think it's probably good enough on the play that we can handle something like this. I think we just lead here. No reason to get too fancy. We just want island at this point in the game. It's not anything too complex. Gains us a life. Can't really complain too much about that. Basic mountain. Pass. Okay, I like pass. We'll pass the turn as well. Good mana is its own reward. So I think we fire up the opt no matter what they do here, and we Kessig Flame, so mono red or red blue or something like that. It's a spells deck. Oh, I do. And I want that card, but I don't want that card for like 3 turns. Don't necessarily want that card either. I'll accept that card. It's kind of precisely the card I wanted. Do we go with this? I think the answer is probably just keep our life total high is going to be the game plan here. We got to find some stuff. This kind of being the crux of our game plan. Scary. But we'll give it a go. I don't like our odds, but we got to play the hand we're dealt. So we'll do our best to try to maximize our opportunities. What do we not want to see? G2 Lava Runner. They haven't cast any other spells, so I guess G2 Lava Runner resolves. Alright, no follow-up spells. Do we want to do this? I think the answer is probably not yet. I think we just do this here. It's going to be a rough one, but without a Kiln Fiend, I think we need to get our cards flowing before Kiln Fiend. We need to make our land drops. Make sure we can keep doing things. Cycles a Forgotten Cave makes a lot of sense here. Get to Lava Runner, see if they have some first main phase spells to grow the Lava Runner, or if they're just content smacking us in the face. There's one cantrip. And 2 extra damage results in 3 actual extra damage because of the pump from on the Lava Runner there. We're in a bit of trouble. Crash through as well. Lots of spells, lots of damage. Okay, what do we want to do? I think we start here, but we can do all this at instant speed, so I don't think we need to go in any particular direction right now. I think we're good to chill. Okay, 4th mountain. Likely means they're overdrawing their mountains, which is good for us. Yeah, I guess. Interesting as to what's going to happen here. We'll just take him out. But that sets opponent up to kind of do whatever they want, because we did have to tap out for all that removal. So, okay, I'll accept that. Okay. A little lucky there, I'd say. We could do this. going to go for it. It is probably the highest risk, highest reward plan. It worked out in our favor okay. I think we take the innocent blood. It's one of the, again, like, it doesn't forward our game plan, but it does help us deal with hard to answer threats from the opponent, like Thermo Alchemist, any of the X3s that get prowess. We saw Kessig Flame Breather already. Those kind of cards, the Innocent Blood's going to help us with. So I think that's an important tool. It's one less spell we have to worry about using a counter spell on, which is one of the scarier things about this deck, is having to counter spell. You just need more counter spells than you have 90% of the time. Start here. Got them halfway. We're each halfway dead. So, at least we're even. I think we're safe to op. We're trying to hit a land drop here. And we did. So I think we just want to pass on this one. A little awkward in terms of what land we got, but I'm not gonna not take that. We know we have the Innocent Blood here, so I'm not super worried about the Flame Breather right now. Okay. Put shocking us. This is 3 damage, 6 damage, 9. So they definitely can kill us here. I guess we just let this one resolve. Down to 7. No combat steps, so that helps a little bit. That's 1 damage plus a card, so it's a needle drop if you play regular Pauper. There's Burning Prophet. Okay, I'm in for this. Alright, see if we can get away with something here maybe. So we're going to avoid this for now. I think we want to go for this. And we kind of have to do this a little awkwardly because we need to do it while they're tapped out. I think that's the best way to go about this. We have 2 mana available, so I think we just pass the turn at this point. Not hitting a land drop there. I mean, we kind of elected to not to an extent, but maybe I should have taken land drop there. I'm fine with the crash, so it doesn't do anything to me. It does not deal damage to me. Fine. Kessig Flame Breather, you gotta be kidding me here. Alright, 6 damage, or we're at 6 life. I guess that's gonna resolve. We have the Innocent Blood to handle it. We just gotta hope the last card is not like... I mean, I guess Lightning Strike's the most punishing card they could have. Okay. Ugh. I'm afraid to even tap out here. Ugh. Ugh. Yeah, I think we just don't tap out here. We can't run that risk. Do this. That draw helps. The draw for the turn, I mean. I should do it. Thank you all so much for hanging with us. Wanted to share some quick thoughts here at the end of the video. We always do this here on Paup-up Video. This deck seems pretty decent. I don't know if it's the best style of control. I'll tell you, in the mirrors, it's very good because it's already kind of designed to beat the control decks, because one burden a lot of the control decks have is they have to play so much creature removal that you can dead a lot of the cards in their hand. Meanwhile, your cards, they're going to play 1 or 2 creatures, and those are perfectly valid targets to use for your Whisper of the Dross and things like that, which means that your removal spells are instantly a lot better than theirs are. So you get some fringe cases where you're going to catch their Serpentine Curve token or their random, like, Deep Dive Salvager or whatever the card is that gets back an instant or sorcery. You're going to catch some of these kind of value common creatures because they play a couple versions of them for the other effects, not so much for the main effect, but it gives you a chance to use like -1/-1 and proliferate. So very powerful stuff the deck is doing. I think its toughest matchups are no surprise. The matchups that bring a lot of pressure and the decks that produce a lot of game objects. So Elves in particular was a rough matchup. It didn't help we drew quite a few land cards there at a critical moment of the game, but that definitely was too many game objects for us to handle. We just couldn't get there. So maybe the priority is, and you're not going to know till you're playing the game, right? Pauper's a best of one format, but when you see that first elf come down and then that second elf come down, it's like, all right, I'm pretty sure I have them on elves here. Once you make that read, the answer is probably just pure race. Just race as fast as you can. It's hard against the elf deck, though. But Whisper of the Dross, again, a key player in that game because you can kill one game object, right? You remove a game object from the battlefield, and then you also proliferate and get them closer to getting killed, which I think is the important part there. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with the deck. It does have some rough moments. I think I've gotten the land base about where I like it. I didn't feel like I struggled for colors there. And I also didn't suffer too hard from tap lands, so they still are awkward. I really wouldn't recommend running more than 4 of them. I'm not convinced that there's the need for another color here or using like a thriving land to try to get there. I think that you're fine set up in blue-black. As of right now, I don't think you need to touch on green or anything like that to get the extra proliferate in, which was a concern of mine early on, is maybe we need to splash another color here just to make sure we solidify this. But I think with 4 Mystic Sanctuaries kind of doubling as spells there, I think this is a really good recipe for a solid foundation of the deck. Bad news for all of you people who enjoy the deck is this is kind of the version of the deck you're going to get. I really don't think we're going to get many more Proliferate or Poison cards in the near future. The last time we saw Proliferate was in War of the Spark because of all the Planeswalkers. So I really don't think we're going to be seeing a ton of Proliferate in the very near future. I could be wrong. There could be a rogue card or two that come along with Proliferate, and hopefully they're good fits for the deck. Because right now I think this deck is going to be like pretty solved. Like this is, once we have the, maybe refine a card or two, but like this is basically going to be the deck going forward, right? Like we may be able to add in a card that's better or upgrade something, or maybe like I was talking about at the beginning of the video, maybe consider over opt for Mystic Sanctuary purposes is a little bit better, but you never know. And there's still a lot of ability out there to change little things, but I think for the most part, this is a firm foundation for a deck, and I don't know if there's going to be a whole lot to build off of from here in the immediate future, but it's a great one to have in your Pauper deck collection to test things against. Like we did here, in the future, this will be one of the roster of many decks that we test when we go ahead and go, hey, is this a new deck? You know, is this a new kid on the block here, or is this a better choice in an existing deck? This is going to be a fine one to test up against because it's such a firm control deck winning on such a bizarre axis that we haven't gotten to see before in the format. So that's what I think about it. I think it's a pretty cool deck. I think there's definitely something unique and interesting about it, and I'm excited to have another different win condition, especially for a control style deck in an already great format that doesn't feel like it's just going to become the boogeyman of the entire format. So we'll see how it proceeds from here. Maybe I'm wrong and I'm off on the build, but I think this is a good way to at least to begin to tackle it. So thanks everybody for hanging with us. Again, like and subscribe, do all that fun YouTube stuff if you would be so kind. If not, check on back by. We do these videos every Thursday. Some kind of game, some kind of film, some kind of entertainment. Until next time, cast more spells.